Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of the Everything Matters podcast. I'm your host, Bradford Speaks. This particular episode is brought to you by belegendary.coach, a performance coaching and leadership development company that works with young professionals across a broad range of industries in having accelerated breakthroughs in performance. Today's guest is going to be Judi Knight. Judi is a serial entrepreneur, lives in the greater Atlanta area. Judi has had her hands involved in some of the largest commercial development projects in Atlanta, including the Atlanta BeltLine, which is a huge attraction feature for both local Atlantans as well as people who are visiting the city for vacation or other reasons. Judi also has a website development company as well as a bed and breakfast business that she and her husband owns and operates together, located in urban Atlanta. Judi started her career out in psychology and became a psychiatrist, working with groups and individuals in the areas of addiction, particularly food addictions. I'm so excited to have Judi on the podcast today to share her incredible story and how she moved from a small town in Pensacola to San Diego, California, going to UC Berkeley, and then ultimately moving to Atlanta to be a professional psychiatrist and an owner of a string of businesses that creates for her and her family multiple streams of income. Please join me in welcoming my special guest today, Judi Knight, to the Everything Matters podcast. Let's get it popping. All right, Judi Knight is on the Everything Matters podcast. Thank goodness. Running you down was knowing how busy you are, Judi. I was able to get you pretty quickly. I think I just had good timing. Would you agree?
Oh, for you, anything, Bradford. I put
You're too kind.
Aside.
Thank you so much, Judi. I really appreciate that. And thanks for coming onto the show and really being willing to share some of the things that you're up to. You've been a busy lady over the course of your career and are really huge on performance. And I know with all the things you've been able to accomplish over the course of your life and your career, performance is a big thing for you. So on the podcast here, we do talk about performance and places where people get stopped a lot, things that get in the way. And I want to share your story about maybe sometimes you got stopped and things that got in your way. But before we get into that, I want to just give the audience a little bit of a context of a little bit about you. So what would you like to share with the audience? Where did you grow up? How did you grow up? Where are you from originally? I know you live in Atlanta now, but I know you have not always been in Atlanta. So tell us a bit about how you grew up and what your life was like growing up as a kid.
So I am the oldest of 7 children, and my dad was in the Antarctic when I was born, so I didn't even see him till I was 11 months old. My mom was 18 when she had me.
Oh my goodness.
And so we lived with my mom and I lived with my grandparents in Pensacola, Florida, which was where I was born and where my mom and her family were born while we were waiting on my dad to come back. And then they went on to have 5 other girls and a boy, all within a 10-year period. So the life of a Navy, family. So even though I was born in Pensacola, we moved all over, all sorts of I lived in every good beach town in the country.
Look at you. And I absolutely love the beach. So I got to ask you, so what is your favorite, the favorite place that you spent some of your childhood? What were one of your favorite places that you lived? And where's your favorite beach? What's your favorite beach town?
Well, I went to high school in San Diego, so that was was pretty great.
Love
high
San
school
Diego.
In San Diego, but Pensacola really is my favorite beach town.
Really?
And yeah, it has the most gorgeous water, gorgeous sand, sugar white sand, beautiful waves, and Pensacola, Florida, I'd have to say.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Now I'm from Louisiana.
There?
I have been to Pensacola, Judi. Yeah, but it's been a long time. I left Louisiana many years ago. We would go to Pensacola. That was one of the closest beaches, growing up in, near New Orleans. It was one of the closest beaches that we could get to. And I loved Pensacola at the time. But of course, that was through the eyes of a teenager and a young kid, adolescent. So I probably didn't appreciate it as much as I would now. So you're intriguing me. And I think I'm going to have to make a trip down to Pensacola soon.
Yeah, it is. It's like one of the best beaches ever. So you should take your family down there.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. So you finished high school, it sounds like, in San Diego. Is that right?
I did. Well, I got a scholarship to the University of California at Berkeley, and he came home from
Oh.
Vietnam where he was, stationed. He was a helicopter pilot. He comes home and he says, I say, Dad, I got a scholarship to
Hmm.
UC Berkeley, full ride. He said, well, you can't go. I'm like, what?
What?
Not even, oh, congratulations. Oh,
Right,
wow, that's
right.
great.
Wow.
Nothing like that. Well, you can't go. I'm like, why can't I go? And he said, well, I've got orders back to Pensacola, and we're moving as soon as school ends. And
Wow.
I'm like, I thought, no way. But I didn't know what else I could do at the point. So I actually did move with them.
Hmm.
And then I worked for 3 months and got some money. And I thought, I will just die on the vine if I have to stay here as the oldest of 7. I think they just wanted a babysitter, or I was their firstborn and they just couldn't let me go.
Wow.
I was 17 actually. So I got some money together and I told them, hey, I'm going. And later on in life, I was in a therapy situation and my mom was visiting, and the therapist asked my mom to come. And she said, Anne, what was the most important thing, what the hardest thing about raising 7 children? What
Hmm.
was she said, it was when Judi left home. I'm like, what? Because I have a
Wow.
sister who was suicidal and ended up in the hospital like 6 times. You find knives. It was like Harold and Maude, that
Wow.
movie where you find
Yeah.
knives. And I
Yeah.
said, really? When I left home? What about, my sister?
Right. Like you
So yeah,
realize you were really important.
it was hard. I guess just it was hard for them
Yeah.
to let me go. But I left and I was on my own after that. I
Wow.
mean, I'd come home to visit, but that was basically my first act of big independence, is
Wow.
getting the scholarship to Berkeley and going there by myself. And
Man. So you left
yeah,
Florida and went back to Berkeley for school.
right, I did.
Wow.
And
By
I didn't
yourself. And
know
California is
anybody.
a big place.
It's
California is
a
a big
big
place.
place and that's a big school. And yeah, and those classes were huge.
I can
So I
only
had gone
imagine.
to junior college for 2 years before that.
Hmm.
And I think I got a better education in junior college. The classes were smaller, the teachers were better, you know.
Mm. Wait. Don't
So,
say that too loud, Judy. Somebody that actually teaches at Berkeley might hear you say that.
well, they have more time for you. How about
Right, right. There you go. There you go. There you go. Awesome. So that's great. So you went back to California. So how long were you in California? Did you stay there after you finished at Berkeley? What happened after that?
No, when I finished at Berkeley, I'd always, you remember the Peanuts comic strip, and you saw
Of
her
course.
in the little thing, psychiatrist is in, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what? You can get money for giving people advice? I'm going to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I
Right.
didn't know there was such a job as consultant, or maybe I would have saved myself, years of
Mm.
graduate school. But I decided then and there, about 11, that I was going to be a psychologist. And so I
Okay.
did. I had to go to graduate school and I got into University of South Florida
Okay.
in Tampa. And so
Hmm.
I went down there. They would let me into the PhD program if I got a master's in criminal justice, because they needed more women in the course.
Hmm.
They were
Hmm.
professionalizing the police force. And if I took a class a quarter in psychology and did well, they let me in. But they said, but your math scores aren't very, very good. So, well, I aced all those classes and I got
Right.
into the psychology program, and that was a long haul. Those programs, it's like 5 or 6 years in
Yeah.
internships. So
Wow.
I left there to go on my internship in Charleston, which was a wonderful place to live. And
Love
when I
Charleston.
finished my internship, I got a job. And my first job in Atlanta was as the director of an addiction treatment program. And
Wow.
so that was how I ended up in Atlanta.
Very cool. Great story. So I want to back it up just a little bit. So when you went to Berkeley, what did you major in there before you ended up going to grad school?
Psychology.
Psychology. Okay. So starting in
Mhm.
psychology, that was the beginning, but you already knew what you wanted to do. You knew you wanted to help people
I
in some
did.
way from it. That's awesome. At 11
Well,
years
because,
old.
I already always took care of people,
Of
being the
course.
oldest of 7 kids. So I'm like,
Yes.
what? And I always was a know-it-all. It's one of my things.
Yes,
And so I
indeed.
figured, why not get paid for, giving advice to
Right.
people? I mean,
all this
That
knowledge.
that was
Somebody
my
paid me to have
question.
all this knowledge. I can tell people what to do.
Yeah,
Right.
I can. Yeah, I came by that naturally.
That's awesome.
Um,
Really great.
so
So,
yeah,
so
I
what you,
do.
what year was it when you came back to Atlanta? I mean, when you moved to Atlanta, what year was that?
Oh, I'm so bad at years. Well, oh, I think it was in 1980.
Okay. Okay. So you came in.
Mhm.
Atlanta was a very different city back then, right? I mean, I came to Atlanta in 1993, and that was right before the Olympics in 96. And Atlanta wasn't anywhere near what it is today. So I can only imagine what it was like in 1980 when you came here. What was
You
the city
know,
like?
I've always lived in the in-town neighborhoods, which
Hmm.
haven't changed a lot,
Okay.
so yeah, Atlanta's gotten huge and there's so much going on, but
Hmm.
it hasn't felt like a big difference to me because,
Gotcha.
the neighborhoods are kind of the same in
Right.
town.
Right. Yeah. Very true. Very true. Those some much older homes there, older communities, much more settled
Mhm.
and set. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So you became a director at an addiction center.
I
What
did.
was that like working with people who were? 'Cause I know my daughter actually works in a similar space. You and
Mhm.
I've talked about that before. And what was it like for you working with people who were dealing with those things? That's a huge issue that's happening in our society today. And unfortunately, the truth about it is a lot of our pharmaceutical companies are attributing to that in a big way with prescribed medicines that are causing people to form
Right.
addictions. And there's other things too. But what was that like for you working in that space?
Well, actually, it was interesting because my specialty in graduate school was eating disorders, bulimia and
Okay.
anorexia. And so when I got to this hospital, we didn't have a whole lot of addicts and alcoholics in the program. So I started putting
Hmm.
the people that I was seeing in my private practice who were like, having trouble stringing a couple of days together of not binging or
Mm-hmm.
having trouble even eating. So I started hospitalizing them, putting them in this little treatment program I had. Nobody was doing that anymore. People didn't really realize that it's the same kind of addictive process.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I was one of the first people in the country, really,
Wow.
who was doing that. And it was familiar to me. I mean, I spent a lot of time in graduate school and working for a VA and internship with addiction. So
Got
I
it.
kind of stepped into that. When I went for my first job, there was a guy there was a director. And then I'd been there about 2 weeks and the hospital was sold and he went with the new company. And so here we are, we have 10 patients in the hospital, the nurses, the staff, and everything,
Wow.
and nobody to run it. So I'm like, well, I'll run it. And so as a brand new
Wow.
PhD, then I started running the program, and somebody from the corporate office came in a couple of few months later, and I
Hmm.
was still running it. And so he said, okay, you have the job. So
Wow.
I kind of like, that is one of my life truths, Bradford. Like, it's don't wait around till somebody,
Yeah.
if I had waited around and said, well, what are you going to pay me? And
Right.
da da da. But there was a job to do, and I darn well did it. And then I
Absolutely.
was there, and they're like, okay, you can have this job.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of looking at and seeing something that needed to happen and stepping into that has worked for me throughout my life. But that was a big example of that.
Yeah. That's huge. And you were still pretty
Somebody's
young.
got to do it.
I know exactly, and it's one of the things that you look at different generations, and there's different nuances in every generation, right? And in today's generation, not that anything's wrong with today's generation, the millennials or anyone else. Everybody has their own thing, right? That they struggle with. My generation had our stuff, and everybody else does. The baby boomers, but it's one of the things that I see that's missing, just in generally speaking, particularly in American culture, is that people are always looking for reward when they haven't even put the work in yet. Like you said, you're sitting around wondering how much you're going to get paid. Well, you're going to get paid. How about you just go do the job first, right? Prove yourself first that you can actually do it. And you did that. You showed them, I'm already doing it. I've been doing it already, right? So you guys
Yeah.
want to pay me. And if at that point, the money doesn't make sense for the job you're doing, then you can say, hey, that's not going to be enough. But you've already shown them that you can do the job. That's powerful.
Yeah, and that is something that I think is important. An important thing in general is not to just base everything on what you're going to get paid. Don't wait for opportunities. Go
Right.
do things, even if you're not going to get paid, if you're interested in them, because if you're doing them, somebody's going to come along and pay you for it if you're good at it.
Very true.
And so,
Very true.
or, people that wait around and say, well, I can't do this because I need that certification or this, da da da. Not true.
Yes.
all of that's just a barrier to your life.
That's right.
And I'm not saying, I mean, I have a PhD, I got the PhD, but that wouldn't have stopped me. I mean, there's plenty of places you can do the same work while you're you don't have to wait to have a credential.
That's right.
Like in the long run, a lot of people, like you do have to have a credential for a lot
Sure.
of psychology jobs, but most people don't even care about credentials, when they're hiring you. If you can do the job and do it well, then that's what's really important. So
agreed. 100%. Totally agree with you on that. So I know that you are now, Judi, at some point you transitioned over into entrepreneurship and you became what many call today a serial entrepreneur. And you've opened several successful businesses. So you worked for this particular agency for a while. And then I think that you ended up going into your own private practice, or it sounds like you may have actually had your private practice working in parallel.
Yeah, I had a private practice at the same time. But what happened was I was the director, and there was a medical director who hired an associate medical director who I ended up marrying. And so
okay.
I married the new doctor in town.
Got it. Okay. Smart lady, smart lady.
And so when I married him, the head of the hospital says, he was French Canadian, or his boss says, when this leads to matrimony, one of you will have to go. And it was me.
Okay. And
so I went with the corporate office and put these programs in all over the country.
Okay.
And my ex-husband, Paul, stayed and worked there. And so then at one point he loved computers. And so he made a little computer program that did treatment plans, helped people do treatment plans for their patients in the hospital, in psychiatric hospitals.
Okay.
And I came home from putting these programs I was flying around doing this, putting programs in. And I see this little program. I'm like, everybody's going to want that when they get computers in the hospital.
Right.
Because that was like in the 90s when psychiatric hospitals didn't have computers in the hospitals, but I'm like, everybody's going to want that. He says, well, it's not commercial. I said, well, make it commercial.
Right.
Famous last words. And so he did. And then we had this marketing company eventually, like supposedly handling it for us. But I'm looking around going, they're just making their offices bigger. We're doing the work and they're hiring new people. I'm like, we have to get this away from them. And so that cost us a little money, but we did. And then everybody turns to me in a meeting and says, well, Judi, you're going to have to run the company.
Wow.
And I'm like, but I don't want to do this. But I'm like, let it go,
right,
or run the company. Okay.
They're your choices, right?
So I became the CEO of the software company.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like another one of those situations where you find yourself being pushed into a significant leadership role when it's your product, right? You probably were doing all this stuff anyway, or at least you were thinking that way of how can I make this successful, right?
Well, I was like, how can they make it successful? But then everybody turns to me and said, well, Judi, you've got to run it. And I'm like, but my youngest son, I've got a daughter, a older daughter and a younger son. And he was just going into first grade. And I'd been looking forward to having time to garden and do things.
Right.
And I wasn't really I got under the covers and cried for about 3 days.
Wow.
I don't want to do this. And then I decided I got to take one for the team.
Take one for the team.
And Bradford, there was an unexpected happy circumstances because I knew how to write a proposal because of being in psychology and so forth. I found out about SBIR grants, and every federal agency sets aside 2.5% of their budgets to fund research and development in an area of interest to them.
Okay.
And I'm like, you mean you get $1 million, 250,000 first, and then 800 later, for feasibility study? And I said, you get that? You mean you don't have to pay it back? You own the product?
Wow.
And they said, yeah. I even went to Washington to make sure to go to a conference about this. And they said, yeah. Well, I ended up getting 6 of them.
6 of them?
I got over time. I got 6 of those grants.
Wow.
And so I grew the business. And then we got to a point where we needed a new my employees were saying it was really an experiment in crowding. So we needed a new office.
Okay.
So this is another big transition in my life. I go out looking at buildings, commercial buildings, with this guy, Harry Jenkins. He's a realtor. He looks like Ted Turner, and he's got a big Southern accent. I went out with Harry every Thursday to look at buildings. And finally, I came to this building in Inman Park, this clear-span warehouse, this beautiful ceilings and concrete floor, wooden ceilings, and it was on a defunct railroad track.
Okay.
And I'm looking at this place and I'm like, this is the place. And I said, somebody's going to make that a rails to trails. And that was in 98.
Okay.
When Ryan Gravel was in his doing his master's thesis in Georgia Tech on the topic of tying all the railroad tracks around Atlanta together for the BeltLine. And so that was the same year. And then just a few years, I bought the building and turned it into 7 lofts.
Okay.
And kept the big one at the end for my house and kept the one on the street for the software company.
Wow.
And now it's the Atlanta BeltLine in my backyard.
Wow.
And Ryan Gravel and his family bought one of these units, and his kids started out the same ages as mine were when we moved in here. So I raised my family here.
Wow. That is incredible.
And yeah, so I have this amazing place over right on the Atlanta BeltLine that once our kids grew up and left, my husband and I rent out the extra suites as a bed and breakfast.
Oh,
So,
okay. Okay. So I want to back up for a second. That's really, I had no idea. I think I've heard you talk about pieces of this story, but now I'm getting the entire story. So thank you for that.
You got to see the whole.
I mean, the whole picture. So I want to step back a minute and just talk about like your take on it. You know, being a psychiatrist and having worked with a lot of people across a lot of different spaces. One of the conversations that comes up for me a lot is talking with people about, you know, the mental health state. A lot of people who are dealing with mental health issues. And with having your expertise on the podcast here today, I don't want to step over that and not get your take on, you know, what do you see as some of the traumas that are impacting people today that we see such a decline in the mental health of, number one, our children, and sort of across the board in society today. And even looks like it's across the globe, it seems. So, you know, what do you think is going on, and what do you think might be something that could make a difference for people who are dealing with these sorts of events and trauma? I know it's a big question.
You know, it is a big question. It's really not very accessible for people in general to, like, what are most people going to say? I think I'll go into therapy for 3 years or something. You know, it's a long process, and it's an expensive process.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people out there that could really use some transformation and some healing. And so for the most part, that's not really available. And I think even like, I think I was telling you that it starts off like with little kids, you know, having them have all the research showing if people have Head Start and go to preschool and so forth, it makes a huge difference down the road.
Right.
And, you know, imagine the single moms, you know, trying to take care of their kids, and they're stressed, and then the kids aren't getting nurtured. And that's such important time.
Agreed.
So I think that one of the places that I would love to see a change is like right there of being like these other countries in the world where they offer discounts or free pre-K, those kinds of young age children, schooling for young age children, give the moms a chance to get out in the world and give those kids a good beginning.
Right.
That would go a long way.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that, you know, you have to start young, right? When you get kids started on the proper track and a healthy track to start, generally the end result typically ends up being pretty good. And, you know, with the situation with a lot of broken homes that we have in America, you know, single parents raising kids, whether it be mothers or fathers, a lot of mixed families that we have, there's a lot of different dynamics that are shaping society in a way that we really need greater and easier access to the tools to support people, because
when you think of how much it costs to put a couple of kids in even a daycare program, it's like you can't do it. And so then the whole thing doesn't work. You know, the moms are typically stuck at home and they're frustrated. The kids aren't getting what they need.
Right.
And all of that could really be positive impact could be made in a huge way if we had those kinds of services available for the children and more opportunities for the parents than to do what they need to do. So, I mean, that's where I would start.
Yeah. Really great. Thanks for that insight. And it's a big fish to fry. And we need a lot of things moving in the same direction to make that happen around legislation. Things in the political realm need to happen to make all that stuff come together. So,
yeah, well, other countries do it,
yeah,
There
they
are
make
a
it a
lot of other
priority.
countries that do that. And I'm kind of disappointed in us that
Yeah.
we don't make that happen.
It makes you wonder why. Why don't we do that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Great. All right. Excellent. So let's fast forward a little bit, back up to it. So you live in this loft that you've now made a space that you lease out. And I know you have a bed and breakfast that you've made a part of that space, a bed and breakfast there. So, but first of all, I want to give you an opportunity to tell everyone who's listening to this podcast from maybe around the world, what is the Atlanta BeltLine? People who live in Atlanta know, right, how big of a deal that is. But if I'm in Germany somewhere and listening to this podcast, Everything Matters podcast, I have no idea. What are you talking about? So tell us what that is, how it came about, and what it means to the city.
Well, there is this person, Ryan Gravel, who was getting his master's in architecture, who was doing a thesis. And he looked at the maps of Atlanta and realized there are all these defunct railroad tracks that kind of almost fit together that weren't being used anymore. And he created this plan called the Atlanta BeltLine, that those could be converted, like the rails to trails, could be converted into trails. And so the interesting thing was it started at the East Side Trail right behind my house. Is where the first one, it was an idea that really took off.
Right.
Everybody loved it and embraced it. And it started right behind my house, about, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago now. And now on the weekends, it's like Atlanta doesn't have a beach. And so there's nothing to do.
Right.
So people come and walk on this darn trail. It doesn't even go all the way around the city yet. But hordes of people come out, babies and strollers and bikes and dogs. And it's really quite the thing.
It is.
So I love it.
Yeah.
And that was the Atlanta BeltLine, and it's going to have rail on it. It doesn't yet, but be a help for Atlanta's transportation.
Yes, it's been an incredible project, and I'm one of those people that comes down there and walks the trail. I've probably been behind your house one day, didn't know you lived there.
You probably have. You started over by the Krog Street Market end. We're the second place on the right.
There it is. So I know where I'm stopping next time I'm over by the Krog Street Market. I'm coming by the house. I'm knocking on your door. Really great. Okay, good. So the bed and breakfast, I want to talk about that. So how did that project come to be? What are you doing with it right now? And how can people find it if I want to book that place for a weekend or something?
Yeah, well, my husband and I went to Argentina once, and there was this bed and breakfast, because I don't like to be a tourist. I hate being a tourist.
I'm
I like to visit people and have them tell me where to go, what to do, what do real people do in in this case, Buenos Aires. And there was a bed and breakfast called My Three Scotties, and it was already full, so I didn't get to go there. But I had 3 basset hounds at the time, and I thought, when I came back, I thought, gosh, Dwayne, my husband's name is Dwayne, we have all these rooms now that our kids moved out. Well, we had 3 extra suites. Why don't we just try to see if we like it? We won't tell anybody. I'm still thinking, well, if the My Three Scotties, if I really wanted to do that, there'd probably other people that really like that. So we tried it, and our place is so big and he's from a big family and I'm from a big family. So it's like the more the merrier.
Right.
And this place, it really is phenomenal, and it needs to be shared with people. Like the love and attention that other people bring here makes it even better.
Yes.
So I'm a web designer now. I have a web design agency, and I created my own little website. It was before Airbnb. So like 12 years ago.
Okay.
So I created a website for the Urban Oasis Bed and Breakfast, and we started, got a little, reservation system going. And besides for the year and a half that closed down during the pandemic, we've been going strong, and we have the best guests. I mean, we really get to know people. I mean, they don't come here to hang with us,
of course
right?
Not. Yeah.
But over breakfast and stuff, we'll have these amazing conversations, and people come back. So it's been really a wonderful thing. And it was wild when we had to close it during the pandemic. And here's we have this, it's 5,000 square feet, this place. And it's
Wow.
a
It's
loft
huge.
with
Yeah.
30 feet ceilings. And it's
Beautiful.
not your typical doilies and, fussy
Right.
Victorian bed
Right.
and breakfast. Not like that at
It's
all.
urban.
And
100%
it's
urban.
an urban bed and
Yes. I
breakfast.
like that.
And we now have a swimming pool, a lap pool with an endless
Wow.
pool in it too.
Wow.
That's right between our backyard, our house, and the BeltLine. So it's just right there. So it's the Urban Oasis B&B.
Urban Oasis
And so
B&B. I love it.
I have an office in there where I have a web design company. It's after I finished building buildings for a while. I needed to make a website for my bed and breakfast. I'm like, well, this was fun.
Right.
Then I started doing it for other people.
I know. And you've done really well with that. So if I wanted to, I think I'm gonna book my next, anniversary at the bed and breakfast. So what's that domain if I wanted to book that online? Where do I find it?
It's Urban Oasis, BANDB.com
Got it.
for BandB.com.
It sounds amazing. And I mean, I live here in Atlanta, but I'm about 15, 20 minutes outside the city. So, I have to actually drive or take the train into the city to experience something like that. So I'm definitely going to take
a lot of people who are from Atlanta, because it is like being on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And the place is really phenomenal. And that's really one of my secret sauce, is to be able to really see a space and design it,
Mm-hmm.
how it calls to me, like it wants to come to fruition.
Yeah.
And so I've done that here. I've done a bunch of other buildings, and it's, people just walk in and go, oh, I feel so relaxed. It's like a tropical vacation.
Yes. You're a creator in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. You're a creator. So, commercial real estate development you've done, obviously flipping this loft space you have down there into something really amazing where you live and actually can share that with other people. Really, really great. You mentioned earlier also that you do web design now. So I want to talk about that for a moment. How did, you said I guess you designed the website for the bed and breakfast, and then you're like, this is kind of cool. It's fun. Maybe I can do this for a business. How did you transition over into that now? It's like a third or fourth career for you.
Well, I decided it was fun, but I didn't have enough information. I could do it for myself, but I still didn't know enough to do it because if I did something that I didn't know how to do or tried to do something, I'd say, oh, I'll just do it this way instead. But when you're building it for a client, it has to be right. So this is back, I don't know, at the beginning of WordPress. And so I found a couple of guys that were developers. Like all of a sudden there was a meetup and 3 guys in a coffee shop across town. And I drive over there and it was so friggin' noisy. You couldn't hear anybody talk. It was like, I've got these brilliant minds and I can't hear it. And then for about 3 months, I'd be irritated about that. And then I thought, Judi, you have this great, huge space. Why don't you have the meetup here? And so I started a WordPress meetup at my house that would have like 60 people.
Wow.
And we did that for a long time. So that's how I got myself learned up.
Right.
I
Absolutely.
learned what I needed to do and made contacts. And then the head of WordPress, Matt Mullenweg, who founded WordPress, called me one day. Hi, Judi.
Wow. What kind of a call is that to get? Who are you again?
And, I was like 50 something and he was like 27 at the time.
Really?
And I had met him sat on the floor at a conference, but still I didn't expect him to call me. And then he said, listen, you're doing this big meetup now. Would you put on WordCamp in Atlanta? And I'd be, okay, I'll do that with this guy, Russell, who was a buddy of mine in WordPress. Okay. And so we were the organizers of the first 3 WordCamps in Atlanta. And so that was how my business kind of took off, because I was visible out there in the community doing visible things and that's how I met my friend Nadia, who runs the Loudermilk Center.
I know Nadia. Yeah. I've got to get Nadia on the podcast too. I know she does a lot of great work with philanthropy.
Yeah, I met Nadia through that. She's the director of the place that is the most wonderful place for a conference.
Yes.
It's cozy. You can have a 600-person conference and feel like it's a cozy, intimate thing. So we did that, and that was how I ended up. And then I blogged every week. I would write a blog post.
Okay.
My business, I called the company. See, back in the day, I went to somebody, I was going to be a web designer, and or somebody said, you should do this for a living. And I thought, really? And I went and talked to a couple of people that had agencies, and they'd say, oh, this was in 2008 recession. We're laying people off left and right. You don't want to do this. You know, it's a bad time. Companies aren't doing websites. They don't have the budgets.
Right.
I went away kind of depressed about it. And then I thought, you know, they have no idea about, there's a new type of website, content management websites. There's social media. They don't know about this. So I'm going to do it anyway. And so that's how I ended up doing it. And then I made myself my own website with a blog for my company, and I called it New Tricks, since there were all these new tricks.
Yes.
And pretty soon I hired a couple of other people to work with me. And so that's been going on about 12 years. That's my kind of main business.
Yeah. That's great.
So I have New Tricks, and the Bed and Breakfast is my multiple, and some other properties that I own that I've kept that I rent.
Yeah. Really great.
And that's multiple streams of income.
Yes.
So yeah, that's how all that happened. It's kind of
awesome story.
It's kind of wild.
Yeah, it is kind of wild. It's really neat how it all connects. And so I want to just give the audience an opportunity to see. I mean, I'm sure that not all things have been peaches and cream. I'm sure you've had some challenges and things that you've come up against that were like, how am I going to work this out? So talk to us about, like, what was the challenge that you came across, and or something that was, you know, an obstacle that was in your way. It sounds like, from what I'm hearing you say also, is that you tend to look at things in a slightly different way. Like everybody was saying, well, nobody's doing web design that way. And you were like, yeah, but there's things that you guys don't know. So I see an opportunity that other people may not see, and you just step into that. So I'm sure that plays a big part into your success, is that you're willing to take some risk and to step into some areas that other people might not be willing to do. And that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I kind of look around at the whole thing, get the whole gestalt of it, and go, well, I can see a way to make this work. I mean, the biggest thing that I had to overcome was my first husband and I got separated and divorced. Gosh, it's been a little over 20 years now. That was really hard. You know, it was hard on me and the kids, and it was the right thing to happen, but it was a hard period, but it was also a really good period. I had my friend Robin moved in with me because I had this big place. So, and I only had my kids every other day, we did every other day. He lived 2 miles.
Oh gosh, every other day. Oh my God.
Every other day. Nuts. And she moved in, and she was into dancing. And I said, what do you mean dancing? You mean like I had no idea. And she said, oh no, like Zydeco and swing. And so she got me into dancing. So during this rough time, I had this outlet of going to these dances where you get to dance with all sorts of people.
Nice.
Like they haven't been having them now because of the pandemic, but that's how I met my current husband, is through dancing. And so cool. Tango, swing, Zydeco. I love some Zydeco.
You know, it's funny. My sister's actually going down to Louisiana. Or either she just went. She was telling about a trip she just took down to somewhere, I think Bunkie, Louisiana, and was because we grew up in Louisiana, but the part of Louisiana that I grew up in wasn't like the bayou like that. Like we didn't have we had swamps. Definitely like right around my house, or swamps around the area, but we didn't have, Zydeco wasn't a big part of the culture there. So Louisiana is really weird. Depending on where you are, the cultures can be, there can be subcultures. It depends on what part of the state.
Yeah, you go to New Orleans, you'd never see Zydeco really.
Exactly.
It's Southwest Louisiana.
Yes. So that's an interesting culture. That whole culture is really interesting. I went to college with some guy that grew up in that, like really on the bayou, we call them coon asses. And it's like, they call themselves coon asses. They have no shame about it.
I know. I have a brother-in-law that grew up in Lafayette.
Yep. And, absolutely. That's really cool.
But that dancing got me through that rough time. And we worked it out, and our kids, we just went to a party at my daughter's house with, my ex-husband and his new wife. Not new, I mean, old new wife. Right. Not me wife, the other one.
Right.
And we can all be together and stuff. Yeah. So it took a while. That was a rough
For
period.
sure.
But like you said, I do tend to look at things like, okay, how can I make this work for
Hmm.
me? And
Hmm.
inviting Robin in, I could have sat here and been miserable and been alone, but I invited Robin in. It was during the recession. She
Hmm.
could save money on her rent,
Right.
and it ends up opening up a whole new avenue
Yeah.
for me to experience life on the dance floor
Beautiful.
and go to dance festivals and stuff. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so that's kind of a turnaround of a negative situation into making something positive out of
Yeah.
it.
I mean, I think one of the things
I
that
don't stay down
I
too
heard
long.
that you can't. What's the point? Life is short, right? There's no point in staying
No.
down. One of the things that I know you and I, agree on is that there's possibilities out there that people, because you get kind of stuck in a space and you can't see certain things that are there. And so sometimes inviting other people in who have different perspectives, taking on something new that's unfamiliar to you, can also jog something and shock something in you and pull you out of this pattern that we're all operating in this pattern, right? This
Oh yeah.
machinery. And sometimes it takes something to really spark something. And you're like, what am I doing with my life here? And all of a sudden you wake up and you start to see the possibilities that you couldn't see before. And it sounds like that's what you're pointing to, what you're sharing.
Yeah, I think that the worst thing is to be stagnant, is to just sit
Yeah.
there. And I'm just blessed because some people just get
Yes.
immobilized. They don't whatever make a
Hmm.
change, and you just get stuck in that like quicksand. And so I totally agree, to look around, get outside yourself, do the next
Do the next
thing
thing.
that catches your
That's it.
interest,
That's it.
and the possibilities are endless.
100% agree with you.
Um,
100% agree. Judy, you've had a ton of success in your career. I mean, multiple careers you've had, and just have a life that's filled with the joy and happiness, and just found your way in some really creative ways. So I just want to acknowledge you for that, for just standing for what you believe in and just taking it on and being courageous and stepping into things that you were just really unfamiliar with. And you're like, hey, I'll give it a shot. And I think that is what people are missing in a lot of ways in their life. And when it comes to performance, sometimes the only thing to do is just take the next step. Just keep moving. Just keep staying in action, and that makes a huge difference for people. You're gonna fail, right? And that's gonna happen. So I want to give you an opportunity with all your experience that you bring and all the knowledge that you bring. I want to give you an opportunity to really just share, like, what advice would you give someone who's maybe thinking about looking at you getting into commercial real estate or looking at starting their own business, or maybe it's web design, whatever it is. What advice would you give people that are out there listening to the podcast today?
well, it really is about just taking action. Like, I didn't know anything about real estate, but I'd go out with Harry Jenkins every Thursday afternoon and looking at buildings. And Harry taught me everything I needed to know. And when I did a big development for the first time, went to the accountant and I found out that was going to cost $12,000 to have him do a pro forma for me. And I didn't know what a pro forma was. I said, well,
Right.
how about you give me your spreadsheet and tell me how to do it, and I'll do the work. How much would that cost? He said 3,000. I said, you got a deal. So, it's like, stay in
That's
action
awesome.
and look for those places where you can get that on the job training, or you
Yeah,
can find out about what you don't know that you don't know that you need
absolutely.
to know. But it's definitely looking around for people that are doing what you're doing, just being in action. You can spend so much time in your head that it really doesn't go anywhere. So
Doesn't
to
go
get
anywhere.
outside yourself, go to meetings, neighborhood meetings, whatever, civic meetings,
Right.
make connections, get outside yourself, and just look for the things that make you happy, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree with you. And one of the things I keep hearing coming up for you is also you didn't have any shyness or any issue with stepping out and letting someone mentor you, or, have someone lead and guide you and teach you what you needed to know. Right. I mean, and a lot of times I think people's pride get in the way of like, well, I can just teach myself. Yeah, you can. But if you got somebody, like you said, is already doing it and they're doing it at a high level and they're willing to teach you, why wouldn't you allow that person to be a contribution to you? So I want everybody to get the importance of having a mentor and having someone that's willing to pour into you is really important, right? So, Judy, we're going to share. We'll give you an opportunity here. This has been a great interview. Thank you again for your time. I want to give everyone who's listening an opportunity to know we shared your B&B website. So if you want to go book a weekend or a week or something at Judy's Bread and Breakfast, go ahead and do that. The website again is urbanoasisbandb.com. And also, if you need to have some website development done, newtricks.com. That's NEW tricks.com is where you can go if you want to talk to Judi about partnering with her on any website development, web development projects that you have. So really, what's the dog's name?
The dogs, Ollie and Charlie.
Ollie and Charlie.
On that note, I'll say goodbye. Thanks, Bradford. It's been really
Thank you so much, Judi. Okay, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Judi. Bye-bye.
This is Doris Brown's baby boy. We out.